What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Struggle to Strength podcast, your source for real-life application on how to turn your struggles into strengths in all things mind, muscle, and money. I am your host, Josh Levine, and I am joined here by my longtime friend and my co-host, Travis Hatch. And today, we're here to talk to you about the power of language and awareness. Look, the number one factor of your success is you. The stories you tell yourself and the way you speak to yourself and others. We're all aware that thoughts become things. Your focus goes where your energy flows. The only missing link to creating sustainable change is how you think, speak, act, and react through awareness and self-development. Whether it's your health and fitness, your relationships with yourself and others, your work, or anything you do in your life, awareness is the key to success. You must first be aware of how you think, speak, act, and react to yourself and others, and then you can improve upon it. Then you can build the life you've always truly wanted. So the question is, do you want to learn how to improve your life by improving your relationship with yourself? Do you want to stop speaking down to yourself? Do you want to stop being mean to yourself? Do you want to actually believe that you can and are fully capable of doing cool shit? Well, lucky for you, today we have Coach Chase Tolleson, Savage Mindset Integrator and Holistic Health Coach, here to give us the secret to improving your life by improving the way you think, speak, act, and react, and begin to love yourself and your potential from the inside out. Before we get into it, we ask that if you do love this episode, and I know you will, we had a really great conversation. I can't wait to keep in touch with Chase. But please give us 5 stars on Apple or a follow on Spotify. Share us on your socials. You can find me at Josh Levine Fitness, Travis at Travis Hawks Media, and Chase at Coach_Chase_Tolleson. Links are in the show notes. That's it. Stay tuned for some great insight and some hilarious stories as we welcome Chase Tolleson. Imagine that's part of what got you into the health and fitness space, is just being fit and active in the service. But I want to take a quick step back and obviously give you the opportunity to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and your journey into health and fitness. Because I checked out your Instagram. You do some cool shit, and we're going to agree on a lot of stuff. Like, I'm really excited about this conversation. Let us and the listeners get a little bit of the 401 on who you are and where you're from.
Yeah, so Chase Tolleson, from Illinois, born and raised, and I came back, when I got out of the Navy. It was either take the money that I had saved up and buy a house and work a job I didn't want, or take the money I had saved up, open up a gym, and live with mom and dad. So mom and dad were in Illinois, so nice. They were nice enough to let me have my room back for a couple of years. I got into fitness when I was 4 years old. My dad had a weight bench in his bedroom. So I grew up watching dad work out. And as soon as I was old enough to use the free weight section, you had to be 12 years old at the local Lifetime Fitness to go upstairs and use the machines and use the free weights. I was running up those stairs on my 12th birthday. And I was the skinny kid who, I went to school 8th grade, tank top, buzz cut, and got told I looked like I had cancer. So it was, all right, let's start adding some muscle. And it was a slow progression. I did the International Chest Day on Monday and didn't know how to train legs at all besides maybe a quad extension machine for the longest time. And that went on through high school. And as I started talking with the military, that got me into CrossFit. That was a whole long journey. We can dive down that rabbit hole because I've since kind of stepped away a little bit, and they revolutionized the fitness industry. So love it. And I ran a gym for the last 7.5 years. That's what I got out of the Navy to do. It was a CrossFit gym at first, and we shifted some more, and at the end of the day, the equipment was really the only thing that looked like CrossFit. And shut the gym down at the end of last year, at the end of December 21, and full online, changing lives online, doing it remotely, and doing some 10 hours a week of personal training.
Mm-hmm. So. Nice. That's a similar transition that I had, is, working with people online and working with people in person and moving online. You saw an opportunity. You saw an opportunity to help more people in a way that was more effective. I don't know if you felt that way. Like, do you feel like you get better results with your online clients than you did with your in-person clients?
Yes, because in person, when they show up to a brick and mortar gym, they want to move and sweat and feel like they want to get the adrenaline hit and, oh, wow, that felt like a great workout. Cool. Okay, I must be making big changes in my life. Online, I get to dig into the stories. And this is this is something I am lit up about. The words we use, the stories we tell ourselves. And I use the Enlifted method, and it is phenomenal when we get in between their ears, because online you're not sitting there next to them counting their reps. So the time that I spend with them is on a screen working the mindset and the identity pieces. And that's, I was just messaging with one of my guys that it's been 10 months since we worked together, and he's still working out, still doing his thing, because we created that identity shift.
Yep. You create habits, you create routines, you create frameworks. And that's something that, like, the second I started following you, I saw this. I saw the mindset piece of what you do. And I think it's something that's been overlooked for way too long, where if you're not a fit and healthy person and you want to be, but you don't know if you deserve to be, and you don't know if you're worthy of being a fit and healthy person, and you're still talking to yourself like you're old in your old ways, and you're speaking down on yourself and all those things, like, your body hears all of that. So yes, important. Obviously, we both agree, like, work on the way we talk to ourselves, work on our gratitudes, our affirmations, and things of that nature. Do you also do, like, digestive work and, like, helping people sleep better? And do you notice a correlation between all these things?
Yeah, it's holistic. It's the whole picture, right?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, if your sleep's off, then your hunger hormones are going to be jacked, and your emotional IQ is going to be extremely low. And regardless of what we try to do with the words and the language, it's going to be fighting an uphill battle. So yeah, and in my mind, like, any one of those pieces, sleep, daily routine, your progress in the gym, or your beliefs and your identity, they're all going to be limited by the weakest link in the chain. So sooner or later, we are going to need to address one of those in order to move any of them.
Yeah, every time I see that, like, some of those are wrong, it's always like sleep, digestion, and stress or something, and progress, of course, and they all tie together. It's like, all right, we're going to start addressing all of them, but we're going to get down to the actual problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of times it falls under that stress bucket and how people speak to themselves. So this seems like a very important part of what you do, and what I think most fitness professionals should do. How do you go about this with your clients? Like, how do you go about improving their self-talk, improving their self-worth, helping them appreciate themselves more, self-love, self-acceptance, things like that? Tell me a little bit more about all that, what you do.
I love that you teed this up for me.
Yeah.
So what we're doing with this work is systematically dismantling the victim mentality. And the victim mentality is a state in which an individual considers themselves the victim of the negative actions of others, even in the absence of clear evidence, and it depends on a habitual thought process and attributions. You have to constantly feed this thing. Like, you have to try to stay there. And the thing is the victim mentality is also as addictive as crack cocaine, because it means that everything is everybody else's fault, and you don't have to do anything about it. So at the end of the day, it can be a lot more simple than a lot of people want to accept. And it's the words we use. It's conflict language versus architect language. And when you look at conflict language, there's soft talk, negations, and projections. And that soft talk is the easiest one to think about. Think about the flakiest person you know. Oh, I might probably try to make it tonight.
Yeah.
Right. Or for fitness, like, I'm going to try and lose 20 pounds this year. Cool. You already just shot yourself in the foot.
Yep.
So you got the soft talk, turn it solid. And this is like speedballing the conflict versus architect language. Mm-hmm. Then the negations versus affirmations. if you're walking around saying, I don't want to be late today, I don't want to gain the weight back, negations especially are going to reprogram our reticular activating system, which is this powerful filter in the back of our head. Like, Josh, what kind of car do you drive?
Drive a WRX.
WRX. When you bought that WRX, did you start noticing a lot more WRXs on the road?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I love this analogy.
They're everywhere in Colorado.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm sure they're all over in Colorado. So like for any of the listeners, that's your reticular activating system. And your reticular activating system doesn't hear, I don't want to gain the weight back. They hear gaining the weight back. And then that filter is going to see all the opportunities to snack or to stay out late or to make choices that are misaligned with your goals.
So why do you notice more, like, let's say you buy a WRX and you're driving around in a WRX, why do you notice more WRXs?
Because what you look at is what you see. To say it tightly, if you see something, you will see more of it. And this is like the science behind affirmations, right? If you say, I am happy, I am happy, I am happy, you will see reasons to be happy. So if you buy a WRX and you're looking at it in your garage and you're looking at it when you're driving it, you are going to notice a lot more of them as you're walking around because your brain is filtering through everything to see more WRXs.
Mm-hmm. And that happens both positively and negatively.
Yes.
Is the secret.
Yep. So like when people wake up in the morning, they go, oh man, I don't want to do today. Nope. Oh, I'm so tired. Like even if you got a crap night of sleep, if you start your day off going, I slept like crap, this is going to suck. Yeah, it will. You're right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I had that morning this morning. I woke up in Aspen. I was at the X Games and I was exhausted. And that was definitely the first thing I said today. I'm like, I'm so exhausted today. Like this drive back is going to be miserable. And it wasn't that bad, I guess. It wasn't that bad, but yeah, it was. And so, so I'm hearing that there's like, obviously what you like, where your focus goes, your energy flows, I guess is another way of saying it that I've heard. So that's kind of like the problem, I guess. Like if you wake up and you're just like, oh, I just sleep like shit and I'm tired all the time. And that's a story you tell yourself every day. That's probably a theme that's going to keep coming back around. Yeah. So what's the solution to this problem? Because it makes sense that would be true, but like, how do we work against that?
Yeah. So the solution is the word. Do you gentlemen know what abracadabra comes from?
No, I know it from magic.
Abracadabra.
I'm Jewish and I also think I saw it written on your back. Is that what that says?
So it comes from the ancient Aramaic for with my word I create. And yeah, Aramaic is like a root language of Hebrew. So yeah, that's what's on my back. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was reading it. I was like, I think it says abracadabra. I was yeah.
So abracadabra means with my words I create.
With my word I create, or I create as I speak.
It's like the original thoughts become things.
That's dope as hell.
Yeah. I like that.
Why it's plastered on my back.
No, I like that. That's awesome. So
I always kind of thought it was just like a made up word. Like from like movies, from like Disney
like a
movies
magic
or something
thing
like that. Yeah.
So that's probably how it got its roots in magic then. Is like with my word I create, poof.
Yeah.
And it translates into other aspects of our life. So yeah, with our words that we create. So yeah, if you're talking shit about yourself and you're talking about how miserable you are all the time, and I honestly kind of can't stand these people and I feel for them, but it's like they are energy suckers. They just like will suck the energy out of you. And I want to be around positive people who see opportunity instead of challenge, who see an advantage in every adversity. And like, it's hard to change your mindset when you're in it. So like, dude, how do you stop telling yourself stories? If you're struggling and you're listening to this and you're like one of those people that's, why does this keep happening to me kind of thing? How do we change that? How do we change that story?
Love that you asked that question. How we change that story is we go into the story. And a lot of people are trying to go through life by like just dragging their stuff around behind them and letting them slow it down and make a lot of noise in their head. And the most powerful thing you can do is take that story that's rattling around in your head and write it down. And then, and this is the 4-step process I take my clients through. We write the story down. And then we talk that story out loud, read it word for word. Because one, how many people have even written those thoughts down, that negative stuff? And then how many people have even taken the time after they've put it in their journal, if they are ahead of the rest, to read it back out loud and hear the way that they're talking? Mm-hmm. And then we check in, we tinker with the words a bit, and then we read it back again even slower. And now we're starting to separate from it a bit. And we check in again. We see how it made us feel, where it is in our body, and then where it is in your body and how it makes you feel. When's the earliest time you can remember feeling that? Because oftentimes these negative stories, these negative things we're saying about ourselves, they're tied to the time that we got hit by a T-ball in 8th grade, the time our parents forgot to pick us up from school. And that's step 3. Step 4, cool, we have some stories titled out to work this same process with later. Step 4 is we read and we take a breath, a big diaphragmatic breath, volume on the inhale, length on the exhale, at every period, comma, and sometimes the ands. And then we're creating a pattern interruption. So instead of sitting in this story and stewing in it, we're separating from it and taking an objective look at it. And by and large, just going through those 4 steps, people will look at this stuff. I had one guy I was working with last week, and he's like, it's just a stupid fucking story that happened to a kid in high school. Like, it often creates so much space just going through that boom, the weight's gone. And then we take it a step further. We tinker with the words. We take our realizations that we had from that story and we tinker with those words. And this is where we get like personalized, customized affirmations. So instead of like taking it off some Pinterest board, you have an affirmation that was built out of a story that used to hold you back.
Hell yeah.
And that's power.
I love that, dude. I can attest to it. That's something similar to a process that I've gone through more this year than any other year. This past year has been like unbelievable for me in terms of my mental growth. And I attribute a lot of it to therapy, psychedelics, and my girlfriend. So those are like my three anchors in life right now. But even just this morning, I was texting back and forth with my girlfriend, and I wrote out. We were getting into a little bit of a deep conversation, and I wrote out something that I had never said to anyone before, and it was about something that happened to me as a kid, and that like I'd been dragging it behind me, dude. My whole fucking life, been dragging it behind me, been keeping me from nurturing healthy and meaningful and fulfilling relationships, and I wrote it out. It was the first time I'd ever written it. And even just writing it was helpful. So I've been writing a lot. I've been writing a lot of things. But writing it out and then reading it back, and like you said, out loud, especially, you like get to hear the way you talk to yourself a little bit. I really like the breathing part, because I'm going to read it back and I'm going to breathe at every comma period and sometimes the ands. And you're able to identify, like you talked about parts, like where different emotions exist inside your body and what they tell you and what they talk to you, so that when you feel that, you might not know you're experiencing an emotion yet, but you can feel something inside your body first. Then it allows you to recognize the emotion. Then you can address it logically and not emotionally. And now you're becoming more in tune with yourself, and you're able to at least catch something that's about to happen before you start speaking negatively about yourself. That's a powerful strategy, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said it, to catch it. When I was early on with this work, I was still playing with the Olympic lifts in the gym, and I was snatching, and it was a weight that was routine for me, and I missed it, and I was like, don't be such a bitch. And I was like, all right, you know better than that. And I said out loud, I said, I am smooth, I am fast. And I'll be damned if that was the smoothest, prettiest lift I've ever hit.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And,
So-
and yeah, and they're the importance of the affirmations being like custom to you based on your story, you know, that's a great example, and it fits perfectly to you. And if you're going through something and you follow this process and you write it down and you work through it, then you feel where it is in your body and you get to identify like, okay, I am not that person anymore. I am this person now. And is that how you get your custom affirmations, basically?
Yeah, essentially. That's, as we work through it. And a lot of times the affirmations will come from things my clients say. As every once in a while it's a piece of the story, something they wrote down that I'll pull out and flip around for them. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes they'll be talking and just riffing about the story and what they realized going through it. And I'll just write something down that caught my ear. And then we switch one word, then another, and then another. It's like, remember what you said before this sentence looked like this and how that felt and how this sentence feels here now? Cool. We're gonna keep talking to ourselves like this.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Now, do you give them, like, they build a number of affirmations that I imagine they repeat to themselves every day, every morning at some point to create some sort of consistency? What's that process look like? What else do you do for them there?
Yeah, so it depends what sticks best for each client. If they can do Post-it notes on their bathroom mirror, yes, let's do it.
Yeah,
put it on your visor in your car, and you pull up to work, pull your visor down, read it out loud. I've had individuals who, if you have your lock screen on your phone is able to be changed, and there's nothing like super sentimental there. Hey, let's switch it to your phone. The more that it can be put in front of your face, the more that your reticular activating system will see it. So yeah, I will prescribe them to rep it in the morning when they wake, and in the night before bed, because when our brain waves are transitioning right there, we're the most pliable. And if it just catches your eye every now and again too, it is going to imprint. I write my workouts down on a whiteboard before I get going on my pieces, and at the top of my whiteboard, I write an affirmation for the day. And I'll look down to see, what I got coming up next, and I'll also read my affirmation out loud because I just looked at it.
I like that. Yeah, it's the consistency, it being in front of your face, like in your face. That's why I like the Post-it notes on the mirror. You walk by that all the time. You're going to see it every morning, every night, and the morning and night thing is good too. Big fan of doing gratitudes. In fact, I was just in Costa Rica for the past week on a family vacation. We were right on the beach. And I had been getting into the process of getting back into doing my gratitudes and affirmations. I downloaded an app called Think Up that I found was pretty helpful. Also encourages you to speak them out loud, which I think is helpful. And so I needed a chance to get into a new routine. And I'm in Costa Rica. I'm 50 feet from the beach. And the first morning I woke up, I was like, I'm going for a walk on the beach. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to do my gratitudes here. I'm going to do my affirmations here. So every morning now I'm already in the habit, and it's consistent, at least 3 gratitudes and all of my affirmations. And my gratitudes are different every day. And what I noticed is, like, getting back into practicing my gratitudes on a consistent basis, they started off really kind of just base level, like, I'm grateful for, like, the sun. I'm grateful for, like, a good training session. And then they got really specific and intricate. And so now I'm, like, searching for really specific, intricate things to be grateful for. And I found the same thing when I was microdosing psilocybin. It makes you so much more aware of, like, the little things that really make life special.
Oh yeah, and +1 for microdosing psilocybin. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, big fan.
Yeah.
Big mushroom
fan,
guy. Yeah. Combine that with some therapy or some, like, shadow work, like what you're doing, dude. I think it's a recipe for ultimate success and happiness.
Yes, when you talk about the ability to full integration of all the work, because so many people will go into a psychedelic experience and not really know how to carry it out. So when you have the skills and the tools otherwise, that's massive. And I'm so glad we went down that rabbit hole. And you talk about gratitudes in the morning. One thing I give a lot of my people is celebrating wins at night. Before you go to bed, write down 3 to 5 wins, because how many people have been so deconditioned to owning their own power? You know, like you don't want to be a narcissist. You don't want to be full of yourself. You want to, you know, be humble. You know, okay, cool. And at the same time, somebody gives you a compliment you deserve. They're like, thanks, but oh yeah, it was just this. No, dude, you did it. You kicked ass. Like, own it. Like, you did that. So
I think it's also really common. It's also really common to get to the end of the day, and for this happens to me like 50% of 60% of the time. It happens every time. I get to the end of the day and I feel like, like what did I even do today? Happens to me all the time. I get this like weird feeling that I like didn't do anything, and I'm like, I know must have done some shit. So I feel like this is kind of, you're killing multiple birds with one stone there. You're forcing yourself to remember like the things that you did win that day, you know? Because that feeling at the end of the day where you know you like did a lot, but you just feel like you didn't do anything or it wasn't productive, that sucks. And so if you kind of like make some time to sit down and remind yourself of like all you've done, because maybe it's a day where you didn't finish any projects, which happens, but you're remembering like, oh, well, yesterday I did, the day before I did, you know, today was just like a transitioning day where I was just working on stuff. So I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm. I was recently listening to a podcast that Rob Dyrdek was on, and he said that every day since I think it was 2015, at the end of every day, he's taken what he calls a qualitative state of mind assessment, where he ranks from 0 to 10 I believe it was like his life, his like finance, his work, and his health, or something like that. And he was like, and I can tell you without a doubt that in 2021 I only had 12 bad days. And I was like, that's pretty good. And so very similar thing, just collecting wins. But yeah, you pair that with gratitude and affirmations, you're training yourself to be positive, and then that reticular activating system is focused on positivity. Of course your business is going to get better. Of course your relationships are going to get better. Your fitness and your health is going to get better. You're fixing the root cause.
Yeah. And when you are looking at all the reasons things might go right or will go right, you will see the reasons to take action. And action dispels overwhelm. I'm on a mission to rebrand paralysis by overanalysis, because it's a mouthful, to inaction overwhelm, because that's what it is. You're not doing anything, so you're getting anxiety.
Yeah,
do something.
I'm really glad you said that. I think that a lot of what people say to each other or themselves can have every intention of being positive, but it can be inherently negative. And so, you know, things like you had mentioned the word just. Like, the word just is an inherently negative word. Like, you don't just want to like try something. It wasn't just a decent lift. Like, it is an inherently negative word. And from my personal experience, back in 2017, 16, 17, I had a series of surgeries. I was on like a major surgery every year. And dude, shit kept happening to me. And I was never really like, why me? Like, I never really was that guy. I had been through enough shit in my younger years that like I got over that. And I was like, nah, I can fucking handle anything. But I kept on saying, like, my thing was, it could be worse, you know, right? Like, because it could be worse. Like, I could have it much worse. There are people who had it much worse than I did. And I was like, it could be worse. And I realized that was inherently fucking negative. Like, I was like, it could be worse. And I was telling myself, it can get worse. And it kept getting worse. And then finally one day, it was in 2016, I think it was after my throat surgery, which is hidden by the mic, but I had a diverticulum in my throat. And I had an esophageal rupture along with it. And I was out of the gym for like a year. I couldn't lift for a year. I couldn't snowboard. My mental health went to shit. I lost my identity. I escaped and fled the country to go find myself. Like, it was a whole thing. But after that, I was about, like, the words almost came out of my mouth. It was like, I had the surgery. I was like, it could be worse. And then my throat exploded, my esophagus ruptured, and the words, like, I had a feeding tube. The words came to, like, the tip of my tongue, and I was like, it could, you know what? No, fuck that. It's going to get better. Like, it's going to get better. And dude, I swear to God, that shit changed my life. I've been good ever since. That's all it took.
100%. When I first got into this work, I have a giant phoenix on my chest. And my whole thing was, well, I'm not the person I used to be. I had no idea who I was moving forward, though. So, like, my reticular activating system was still focused on that old Chase and still telling myself, even though I'm not that person anymore. Mm-hmm. So 100%, you can think that you're like 100 to your point. Oh, I'm being positive. No, you're just like making a self-deprecating joke or situation out of the negative. Like, good attempt, good, well-meaning, and we can do better.
Yeah, we can do better. And remembering who you were, I think, is also important. My therapist, we talk about this all the time, is, I'll be struggling with something, go back to the story of where it came from, like you were talking about, could have been something that happened as a child. And a lot of times it is. And she always asks me, she's like, do you remember who you were when that happened? Like, how old were you? Like, let's figure it out. Put an age to it. Like, give it an identity. And then she's like, are you that person anymore? And I'm like, fuck no. And instantly I'm like, okay, no, I'm good. Like, I'm not that person anymore. I'm good. And it's powerful, man. It makes a big difference. But I think a lot of people don't do this work. Either they don't know how to do the work, or they're afraid to do the work. Because it's hard, man. You start looking for shit, you're going to find a lot of shit.
That's just it. And a lot of people are playing I told myself I'm happy and I don't want to realize I'm not.
Yep.
And that's scary. And the thing of it is when you lean, what do you got?
No, go ahead. I'm just agreeing.
Keep going.
Yeah. Okay. Because I was about to drop something a bit heavy. And when you lean into this work, you can be ready to address things as they come up. And the Saturday after Thanksgiving, November 27th, 2021, my 27-year-old brother passed away unexpectedly. Just out of the blue, boom, shit. Gone. Wow. So, what this work allowed me to do, because I'm a damn gangster, is I was able to be a rock for my family that day. He was unresponsive to CPR for 10 plus minutes at my parents' house. I showed up there while the paramedics were there. My dad had been giving his dying son CPR.
Oh my God.
Yeah. They had pronounced him dead at the house. Then he got a pulse. Then, it was an epinephrine-induced pulse, but there was a pulse, so they took him to the ER. ER to the critical care unit. Critical care doc, hey, extensive brain damage from going without oxygen for too long. It's swelling, and the brain swelling is now pushing down against his spinal cord, which brainstem impacting spinal cord means autonomic nervous system shuts down, and organs are going to go. So my brother's 27-year-old wife, with all of us in the room supporting her, had to be the one to make the call that we're going to go to comfort care, which essentially is a nice way of saying pull the plug on a 27-year-old because it's done anyway. Oh, man. And I paint that picture because without this work, oh, dude, I would have been in jail. Because I would have went and gotten a fight with the first person that I saw. I would have likely killed them because I hospitalized my own father when I was 17. So if I hadn't done the self-work between then and now, think what I'd do to someone I didn't know right after my brother died. And I was able to be the rock for my family. I was the one that, with the awareness around breath and how it can downregulate us, anytime someone started crying at the hospital, I'd give them a hug and just breathe. And I didn't tell them to breathe. I would just start breathing deep.
And they would copy you. Yeah. Yes. Dude. Wow. Yeah, that's powerful. That's something, the awareness piece that you mentioned, like that's what this is. It's awareness. It's awareness of emotion. It's awareness of breath. It's man, your family's really lucky to have you, dude. Because that is wild, and I mean, how else do you know how to handle a situation like that?
Right. Yeah. Like, and even like, I didn't know how. I knew I had tools. And
Yeah, exactly.
you know,
Yeah.
No, and I mean, you're exactly right. And when people say, "Oh man, there are no words," I'm like, "Oh, that's what they mean," because there really aren't in a situation like that. And when you can control your words, like it's. So I got home that night, and I tried to do it in the car on the way home from the hospital. I started crying. I figured I should wait till I got home, and I got home and I started repping it for ownership, because so many people will spend months running away from the fact that something like that happened. And I stood in my kitchen, and with a breath after each one multiple times before I could say it without shaking, said, "My brother died today." And I owned it and leaned into it. In that way, the next day when my uncle came over to my parents' house, and I thought I was good. I was like, man, I'm kicking ass. I know Ian died. It sucks. He's gone. I was able to understand what hit me in the face when I saw my uncle give my father a hug. And I realized I would never again get to hug my brother, or at least his meat suit. And I was like, ooh. And that slapped me in the face, sent me into my parents' garage for half an hour. And that would have upended me a lot worse had I not spent the night before owning the fact that my brother was gone.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's a really powerful distinction too, because, you know, I want that to like sink in for people, because I think sometimes people miss the mark a little bit when they're listening to this type of thing, and they think like maybe it's creeping into what I've seen on social media, people talking about like toxic positivity, where it's just like, you know, good vibes only, like going into your kitchen and like saying to yourself multiple times, like, my brother just died, and owning that. Like, there's nothing toxically positive about that at all. You know, we're not talking about just being like, oh, like, you know, only have positivity. Like, you have to own to be truthfully positive and enrich your life. You have to own the bad stuff too.
Very well said. I mean, I woke up Sunday morning and cried in bed. My wife said it felt like the house shook, because it even after owning it Saturday, I woke up Sunday. I was like, oh, nope, that didn't all just happen in a dream. We're here again. Mm-hmm. And there were a couple times the next week driving to the gym in the morning, because it was before we had shut down, that I was screaming in the truck. So, like, feel your feels. I love that. Thank you for bringing that up, Travis. That, like, toxic positivity can be a thing where people are like, oh, I don't have anything wrong. No, it sucked. It hurt. It ripped a piece of my soul out and allowed me to rebuild stronger. And there's a difference between sitting in it and stewing in it, and stepping in, feeling, becoming aware, and integrating.
Mm-hmm. Do you have kind of like a time limit for how long you let yourself, you know, obviously in a situation like this is on one end of the spectrum, and then like, you know, some guy like cutting you off in traffic and trying to start a fight with you is like closer to the other end of the spectrum. Like both are bad feelings and cause maybe some anger and, you know, like the want to like do negative things or think negatively.
Yeah.
Obviously on different ends of the spectrum, but do you have kind of like, for, I guess for more of like the day-to-day stuff, do you have kind of like a time limit for like how long you let yourself feel bad about things, or do you just have a process, which is like, you know, breathe? Like what's kind of like your process for letting yourself feel bad about stuff?
Beautiful question. The day-to-day stuff is often a reflection of ourselves that we don't like, that makes us angry. Sometimes it's legitimately other things,
or like fear.
Yeah, or fear. And so the question is that I ask myself is, why am I feeling this way? And as far as time limit, I believe it's 90 seconds that like the actual physical emotional response times out in the human body. And beyond that, you are choosing to take it there. And it's a tough choice to rewire that. Like, it is a skill to address that. And I still go longer than 90 seconds sometimes. And if I'm still stewed about something 2 minutes later, it's because I went to a place where I turned that burner up and kept it boiling. Now, why did I do that? As opposed to assessing it. What am I so scared of in myself that I don't want to look at it? Because usually anger is just a misunderstanding of ourselves.
I completely agree with that. It can be hard in that moment too to assess. Like, of course, sometimes you're angry. You just want to be angry.
Yeah. It's like addictive.
Yeah, and sometimes you just want to be sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like feeling bad for yourself, feeling angry at someone or something else, or just angry at like the world. Those things are addictive. Like, why is that?
Because then it's somebody else's fault and we don't have to do anything about it.
Yeah.
You know, that's easy. It's easier.
Okay, so when you're in that moment though, because here's something that I've been working on as I've like been getting more comfortable and confident exploring emotions and understanding what they are and when they come. When you feel that emotion, whether it's anger or sadness or, you know, whether like some guy cuts you off or something more catastrophic happens in your life, and you're allowing yourself to feel that, when you want to, because like you said, it's a choice, when you want to stop feeling that, when you want to start working through it, and when you want to take ownership, do you have anything that you do specifically to help stop that train of thought? Like for me, I know when I'm feeling anxious, like, and when I want to stop feeling anxious, I can feel claustrophobic and I get stuck. Like literally, I almost like my arms get close to my body and I feel stuck. And when I'm like when I can recognize that and I want to stop, I have to like literally stretch my body out. And sometimes I have to do weird shit. I have to like move and do jumping jacks or something to get myself out of a hyper aroused state to keep from being shut down into that hypo arousal. I have to like do weird shit. So do you like, it sounds weird, but do you do that, or do you have your clients do that or similar things?
I honestly, the awareness around breath is the biggest tool for me.
Okay.
And if I realize I'm getting ramped up, like, you know, even something as little as being around the house with my wife and like all of a sudden like getting annoyed at a little thing, I'm like, let's try taking 3 deep, long breaths and see if I'm still annoyed with this thing she's doing before I even halfway think. Because that, hold your breath for 5 minutes and see how you feel. You know, there's a book, Robert Sapolsky wrote a book called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. And they don't get ulcers because they save their fight or flight response for when something is trying to eat them. Right. You know, not for when they turn on CNN and there's profit-driven news being shoveled down their throat. You know, so.
We're all gonna die.
That's pretty cool.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool. The breath thing for me, and I don't know, maybe you feel this way too, is breathing is a skill, right? And paying attention to your breath is another skill, because you can be deep breathing and your mind can be elsewhere, right?
Yeah.
So when you're taking those 3 deep breaths, it's important, I imagine, to like actually, of course, the deep breaths will help, but like to focus on the breath and what's happening inside your body, I'm sure is like the next level.
Yes. Yeah, you know, and play that game. Focus on the breath. See how long of an exhale you can take. Because if your exhale is twice as long as your inhale, then you are on the road to downregulating. And it's a lot easier to have that awareness when we're downregulated. So
what would be like a good breath? Like 5 seconds in, 10 seconds out, 4 seconds in, 8 seconds out? Like,
so a good breath is one that makes our waistband tighter. And
Okay.
I do like box breathing and timing. And some people will say, I'm taking a big deep breath. And you see their shoulders rise and their ribs get big, but they're doing like an old school like bodybuilding vacuum pose. You know, they have nothing in their lower abdomen.
so push your lower belly out, right? You want to breathe with your
Diaphragmatic, right?
Diaphragmatic breathing. Yeah, like you breathe all the way down into your taint. And that's then you're taking a deep breath. Yeah.
Okay.
And there, you know, like 3 in and then 6 out.
That's what I like. Those are exactly the numbers that I like, 3 and 6. Because a lot of people, they talk about box breathing, and I think everyone's probably a little bit different. But for me, if I do like a 4-4-4-4 box breath, I'm like, I feel cut short. in some ways, or it like doesn't feel right to me. So mine, like you said, is 3-6 is perfect for me. And I'm sure like you said, as long as you're filling up, you're breathing diaphragmatically, it feels good and it works for you, you can focus on it. I'm sure that's the important piece.
So so next time you're feeling like ramped up about something, try doing 3 deep breaths, like with your diaphragm, push your belly out, like 3 or 4 seconds in, and then 6 to 8 seconds out, and see where your mentality goes from there. Maybe that's all you needed to do, and doesn't have to completely ruin your day.
Another cool trick about breath that I like to use, I've used a few times in the last 45 minutes here. When someone is talking, see how long you can exhale. Because if you are focusing on taking a long, long exhale, you will be listening. And then when you can truly listen, the only difference between an argument and a conversation, in my opinion, is whether or not someone has decided what they're going to say before the other person is done talking. Mm-hmm. So you can have a true conversation if you're focusing on long exhales, down regulating, and holding space.
I really like that. Something that it's funny you mentioned that, because something that I've tried to start practicing more of is to not like even form the first word that I'm going to say until the person that I'm listening to is done talking. And it's hard to do, but adding a layer on top of that of like, okay, they're talking, I'm just exhaling, seems really conducive. Seems really helpful.
Maybe don't do it like blatantly, like hugely in front of their face, because it might seem like you're kind of like an eye roll. Just like
Don't
while they're talking, you're just like,
roll your eyes.
They're like,
maybe
what are you doing?
Are you
okay?
cautious
What
about
are
how
you
you do
doing?
that one.
Oh my God. Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah, I like
That's
that. So, okay, so we've talked about mostly mindfulness, honestly, and that was I was most excited to talk to you about that anyway. Like, we'll get to trading and all that shit in another episode, but this is what I'm fascinated by lately. And so we've talked about gratitude. We've talked about affirmations. We've talked about breathing, awareness. What other, or are there any other like very key aspects to self-development, especially from this mindfulness and self-awareness and self-love perspective, that you think people are kind of just missing?
Buy yourself a magic wand and a spell book, aka a pen and a journal.
Okay, I was wondering where you were going with that. I heard magic wand, and I was like, all right, dude, gotta get weird.
No. We can do another episode on mushrooms and quantum physics. No, write your stuff down. And like, more than the morning gratitude and the evening wins are great, clear the noise out of your head. And when you write stuff down, don't be like 7th grade journaling, oh, Billy was mean to me. Write down the event with as much detail as possible. So like, if you had a fight with your girlfriend, if you had a client who pissed you off, if somebody cut you off in traffic and is still stewing, write down what happened with as much detail as possible and read it back, because that's where the power is. And write your damn goals down. 30-year study out of Harvard, you are 10,000% more likely to achieve something if you write it down. So write them down. Because a goal not written down is only a dream.
That's facts. I actually just got a new journal. It's like a cool man journal for all the dudes out here who are listening, who are like, cool. I don't want to journal, whatever. Like, I got a cool man journal. It's like leather bound. It's got like this fancy metal clasp on it. It's got a cool pen. Feels real good to write with. Yeah. So like, cause typing on the phone, like texting on your phone in a note versus typing on a computer, it's like, but like writing it down, it is powerful. And it's like I don't love writing. My handwriting sucks. It takes a long time. It's kind of annoying, but it is therapeutic. So I do it, and it makes a big difference. So yeah, get yourself a man journal, or like just a journal in general, or just a notepad, like something to write in. I find that I do best with prompts. So especially when people like when I was first getting into journaling, like I needed the prompts of like today I'm grateful for like the I am statements for my gratitude, and then like some wins for the day, and then like something that happened to you or whatever. Like I needed the prompts. And I think now I'm at a point where like I can do that on the front page, and on the back side of the page when it's blank, I can just write down an event. And like you said, in great detail, and the more specific you are, the more you can read through it. And then you can go through your 4-step process kind of like write it down, read it out loud, adjust it. Who is that person? Like all that, and create an affirmation from it. Then you have a new one.
Yeah. Ask yourself what that story means about you.
Mm-hmm.
That's a phenomenal question. And for any guys that have blocks with journaling, just go find a beach and some psilocybin. And you will find flow.
You will certainly find flow. Yeah. I was surprised. We had one of the leading researchers from Johns Hopkins on here to talk about psychedelic assisted therapy. His name was Dr. Sandeep Nayak. So we have an episode with him. I was surprised, dude. In those studies, they do heavy doses. It's not micro doses.
Yeah.
Those are 3 to 5 gram. They're giving people heroes doses.
Yes, let's go.
I was like, where do I sign up?
So I have speaking of psychedelics, I have a theory that if we aerosolized 5-MeO DMT and
dude, I'm so glad you even said 5-MeO DMT. The fact that you know what that is. Or 4-MeO, 4-HEO-MET, like all these, dude. Okay.
I like NN-DMT. 5-MeO will set you free. And if we aerosolize 5-MeO and we drop that in aerosolized form across the capitals of each nation, the system will come apart at the seams, and we will have fixed all the world's problems.
And true happiness.
And true happiness.
Yeah, and true happiness.
Like, this is like kind of like a Batman villain plan. I like it.
But like an anti-villain. Like we're gonna save the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
they're going to see source consciousness, and then there was, when we were talking about journaling and psychedelics, there was one from Punta Cana last year that, if you guys are open to it, I would love to read.
Dude, I would love it.
Yeah.
Some people come into the world to find themselves, while others go into themselves to find the world. This statement sums up that most people think their identity is created and shaped by external factors. They define their existence by the things they have, places they go, and company they keep. This method is the endless search, where an individual has everything they need in front of them, and they have yet to take a look inside. That look inside oneself allows us the ability to find and become acquainted with our true self. This can be an uncomfortable and sometimes lengthy process with a life-changing payoff. In order to truly connect with anyone, we must first practice being vulnerable. Vulnerability creates connection, and in order to foster that with others, we must first connect with ourselves. This means practicing vulnerability first with your inner voice, knowing your feelings, your stories, and how those stories shape your reality. Which uncomfortable tales have you pushed aside? When tackling them head on, will break the chains that hold you back. Once we take that freeing look into ourselves, we find our world.
Damn, dude. I love that.
That was about 2 grams of mushrooms on a beach in Punta Cana. So
that'll do it, man. That'll fucking do it. That is... and that's honestly, I think that's part of what I love about psilocybin is it does encourage that internal reflection. And, some people go to therapy to get asked the right questions. Some people have good people in their life who will ask them the right questions. Some people just learn and know how to ask themselves things that challenge their way of thinking and challenge them to look inward. But if you've ever struggled with that, man, I can't recommend it enough.
Right there with you, bro.
Yeah.
Right there with you.
It's for a long time, it's what I used in lieu of therapy until I started combining the two. And my therapist now that I work with, I'm like, look, here's the deal. I'm gonna do my shit, and obviously we're gonna work through our stuff together in between. But I guarantee you that a lot of things are gonna come up, and I'm gonna tell you I've seen this before, and I may not have worked all the way through it, so we're gonna finish that. But yeah, man, it's powerful. It's really helpful. I think that, like we talked about earlier, any journey of self-discovery, no matter what your method of obtaining that discovery may be, whether it is psychedelics or therapy or traditional therapy or just, spending time by yourself and traveling alone or whatever you're doing, you're going to learn a lot about yourself. And I think you have to be ready for what you're going to learn. Because like you mentioned earlier, a lot of people put on that veil of, oh, no, I'm happy. I tell myself I'm happy. But you've never actually asked yourself. You've never actually looked at yourself to a point where you can learn what's not working so that you can fix it. And once you start to look at that shit and you start finding and digging for shit that you need to fix in yourself, it can be overwhelming, dude. Because you're going to find a lot of shit that you weren't ready to see, and you're going to have to start working on it. And that's hard. It's like starting a new fitness journey when you've never stepped foot in the gym. It's overwhelming. And at the same time, you're still going and you're still digging. And it can make you want to stop. It can get so overwhelming that you're like, man, life was easier when I wasn't doing all this work. But it's not fulfilling. So I guess the last question that I have to you is for people who are going on that journey of self-discovery, self-exploration, self-improvement, self-development, self-love, self-actualization, and they're finding all this shit that they thought was done with. They thought it had been buried. They thought they had worked through it, but now they were just carrying it behind them. They find more and more and more, and they get overwhelmed. What do you say to those people?
There are two secrets to success in any endeavor in life. First one is start, which they already did. And the second one is keep going. And it will be better on the other side. Many of these people often just got off a path of life where they're essentially walking barefoot over gravel for the promise that 10 yards over hot coals would give them a lifetime on a beach. And they realized that 10 yards might end up being 12 or 15 yards. That beach is still on the other side. I promise you that. It will be better than walking over gravel for the rest of your life. It's just take the next step.
Yep. I like that. And I like the analogy because it's challenging. And I find that in myself as well. It's like, fuck, now I got to deal with this shit. but it's like, I thought I was done with that, but there's another level and it just keeps going. But man, you're right. It is rewarding. And the journey, I don't foresee it ever ending. Much like fitness, much like health and fitness, I don't foresee it ever ending. There's always improvement that can be made. And it's going to be hard and you should expect it to be hard, but nothing that's worth having comes easy. So keep going, I guess.
Yeah, keep going. One foot in front of the other and keep moving because action, I'll bring it back to this. Action dispels overwhelm. So if you're worried about what you're doing with it, take some messy action and figure it out once you're moving.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect, right? I think messy action is the important piece there is you don't have to know what you're doing. You just do something and you'll figure it out. I didn't know how to do gratitude when I started. I didn't know how to do any of this shit. I just started doing stuff. I figured out what felt good. And I looked to people who were doing it better than me. So I would look to people like you, to my therapist, to people who are further along in their journey than I am and learn from them. But take action, no matter how messy it may be. I think that's the perfect way to wrap it up. So, yeah, man, dude, this has been one of my favorite episodes by far. I love this shit. We're going to have you on again to talk a little bit deeper into the fitness and the training and honestly, even psychedelics. So we'll have to have you back on, man. And then we're definitely going to stay connected. I think you and I probably have pretty similar target audience and similar views and vibes. And so, yeah, we're going to keep in touch, but thank you so much for coming on, man. It's been a phenomenal conversation. Before we leave, obviously the listeners are definitely going to want to follow you. They're going to want to know who you are, where you at. So give yourself the plug, man. Where can we find you?
Yeah. Easiest spot. Thank you for giving me the chance. And Easiest spot is Instagram at coach_Chase_Tolleson. And by the time this airs, the website should be back up, chasetolleson.com. So.
All right. I love it, man. Go check him out, and everybody go follow, give him a follow on Instagram. If you like my content, you love his content. If you're about anything we talked about today, you're really going to like it. So again, thank you, man, for coming on, sharing your stories, sharing your journal entries, sharing your wisdom. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in to another episode of the Struggle to Strength podcast. We'll see y'all next week.